What if you could take the pulse of the entire global scientific community just by looking at one company's financial report? Well, today, that's kind of what we're doing. We're diving into the latest earnings from Thermo Fisher Scientific. And believe me, the story here goes way beyond just dollars and cents.
So, first things first, who exactly is Thermo Fisher? Well, their mission is pretty straightforward. They want to help their customers make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. I mean, think about it. The labs working on the next big cancer treatment, the scientists checking if our water is safe to drink, all those researchers pushing the limits of what we know. Thermo Fisher is the company that makes the essential tools and equipment that makes all of that amazing work possible.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll hit the Q3 scorecard, the big numbers. Then we'll decode the financials a bit. After that, we'll look at their growth engine, see what the CEO has to say, and then wrap it all up with what it all means.
Okay, let's dive right in. The Q3 scorecard. Let's talk about those headline numbers.
Okay, first up, the big one, revenue. We're talking about the total cash they brought in for the third quarter, and it's a huge number, $11.12 billion. I mean, just to put that into perspective for you, that's more than the entire yearly GDP of some countries. Wild.
Now, a number that big is impressive, but it doesn't tell the whole story on its own, right? You got to have something to compare it to. And when you look at the same time last year, you see a really solid 5% growth. That tells you the company is moving in the right direction, a nice steady climb.
Okay, but this is the number that really gets people's attention, especially investors. A 10% jump in what they call adjusted earnings per share. This is all about profitability, and it shows that Thermo Fisher isn't just making more money, they're getting way better and more efficient at turning all that revenue into actual profit.
Okay, so I just used a really important word there, adjusted, and you probably noticed it. Let's take a second to break down what that actually means, because honestly, it's super important for understanding what's really going on with the company's performance.
So when a company reports earnings, there are kind of two ways they do it. On one side, you've got GAAP. Think of that as the official by-the-book number. It's the sticker price, right? The standardized rule for everyone. But then you have adjusted EPS. This is more like the out-the-door price. It's the number management loves to talk about because it shows how the core business is doing by taking out one-off things, like the cost of buying another company.
And here you can see exactly how they do the math. This is straight from their report. They start with that official GAAP number, $4.27, and then they add back these specific costs, like amortization or restructuring. And boom, that's how they get to the higher adjusted EPS of $5.79. It's their way of saying, hey, look, this is how our main business is performing if you set these other temporary things aside.
All right, so a 10% jump in earnings like that doesn't just happen by magic. So what's really driving this? What's the engine behind all this growth? Let's get into the strategy.
So check this out. What's really cool is how diverse their business is. You can see that, the biggest piece of the pie, over half, comes from their main workhorse, laboratory products and biopharma services. But they've got these other strong, really cutting-edge businesses too. And having that kind of mix, that makes them super stable and resilient.
A huge piece of their growth strategy is just relentless innovation. I mean, they're constantly creating things that the scientific world desperately needs. Just this quarter, look at this list. They got FDA approval for a new cancer test that helps guide therapy. They launched a new panel to help researchers tackle Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And they released a brand new microscope to speed up drug development. Any one of these could be a total game changer.
And they're not just focused on today. They're making some seriously bold moves for the future. I'm talking about this partnership with OpenAI. Yeah, that OpenAI. Their goal here is huge. They want to weave artificial intelligence into pretty much everything they do to speed up scientific breakthroughs. This isn't just a small step. It could completely change the pace of discovery for everyone.
And finally, they're being really smart with their money. It's kind of like a two-part plan. Part one, they're buying up other companies to get new technology and expand what they can do. Part two, they're giving back to their investors. They spent $1 billion just this quarter buying back their own stock, which is a massive vote of confidence in their own future.
All right, so we've seen the numbers, we've seen the strategy, but what's the official word? Let's take a look at what the CEO, Mark Casper, had to say about all this.
So in his statement, the CEO basically says, look, our team was outstanding. He credits their success to their strategy, something they call their PPI business system, which is their method for always improving, and just active management. He's really making it clear that this great performance wasn't luck.
It was part of a very deliberate plan.
Okay, we've talked about a lot. Billions in revenue, adjusted EPS, AI partnerships. So let's bring it all home. What does all this mean, and why should you care?
Here's the real bottom line. Thermo Fisher's performance is basically a bellwether for the health of science and healthcare research globally. Because they supply everyone, from tiny university labs to giant pharmaceutical companies, their success tells us something really important, that the world is still investing big in scientific progress.
And it's so important to remember their mission in all of this. All these numbers and business strategies we've been talking about, they're not just lines on a spreadsheet. They translate into real tools that real scientists are using right now to find new medicines, to help solve environmental problems, to, make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer for all of us.
And that leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to think about. When a company like this partners with a giant like OpenAI, they're making a huge bet on the future, a future where artificial intelligence and biology completely merge. So, what's the next great scientific breakthrough going to look like? What happens when you unleash that kind of computing power on the building blocks of life itself? It's an incredible thought, and it's a future that's probably coming a lot faster than any of us think.